The War Council of the Zirathi Empire had debated for 11 hours before Emperor Zyrex Thorn silenced them all with a single raised claw. "Enough," he said. His voice was low, layered, a sound like tectonic plates grinding beneath a dying moon. The council chamber fell into a silence so total that the faint hum of the flagship's dark matter drives could be heard in the bones of every officer present. Emperor Zyrex Thorn was ancient. He had overseen the absorption of 47 star systems into the Empire. He had watched species kneel, species flee, and species crumble, and in all his centuries of conquest, he had never once been surprised by what he found at the end of a campaign. Strength was predictable. Resistance was predictable. Defeat was predictable. He studied the holodisplay floating before him, a soft blue sphere, third from a yellow dwarf, orbited by a single pale moon. Designation, Sol 3. Common name among its inhabitants, Earth. "They call themselves humans," said Admiral Vreth, his second-in-command. "A Class 3 biological species. Individually fragile. Short-lived. No natural armoring, no venom, no chemical defense. Their homeworld gravity is unremarkable. Their star is unremarkable." Vretha's compound eyes glittered with contempt. "They are, by every metric, unremarkable." Zyrex Thorn studied the display a moment longer. "And yet," he said quietly, "they have not asked to negotiate." Vreth twitched a mandible. "They are simply ignorant of what we are." "Perhaps." Zyrex Thorn stood, his 6-meter frame unfolding like a war machine coming online. "We will educate them." The order went out across the fleet, 800 warships, the largest deployment the Empire had made in 2 centuries. Their jump signatures lit up across the inner system like a second sunrise. Admiral Ethan Cross was eating a sandwich when the proximity alert activated. He set the sandwich down. He did not rush. He walked to the command bridge of the UES Adamantin with the calm of a man who had been expecting company, not because he was fearless, but because fear, as Ethan Cross had long since decided, was a resource to be spent at the right moment, and this was not that moment. "Report," he said. Lieutenant Yara Chen looked up from the sensor array. Her face was composed, but her eyes were doing math at speed. 812 vessels, sir. Zirathi configuration. They've established a perimeter at 0.4 AU. Standard Empire encirclement pattern." She paused. "They're hailing us. Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was magnificent in its arrogance, deep, resonant, translated by the ship's AI into flawless English with a faint reverb that Ethan suspected was intentional. "Theatrical. Inhabitants of Sol 3. This is Emperor Zyrex Thorn of the Zirathi Eternal Empire. Your system has been designated for absorption. Resistance is futile. Surrender your governance structures within 6 of your planetary rotations, and your biological continuation will be guaranteed under imperial law. Refusal will result in total pacification." The bridge was quiet. Ethan Cross picked up his coffee, took a sip, and keyed the response channel. "Emperor Thorn," he said pleasantly, "this is Admiral Ethan Cross, Commander of the United Earth Defense Fleet. I've received your message. I'd like to offer a counterproposal." He set the coffee down. "Leave." There was a pause on the channel that Ethan found satisfying. "You are one species," Zyrex Thorn said, and now the theatricality had drained away, replaced by something colder and older. "On one world. With one star. You have no allies in this system. Our fleet has absorbed civilizations that spanned 12 planets. You will surrender, Admiral, or you will be an educational example for the species that come after you." "With respect," Ethan said, "you don't know what we've been doing for the last 40 years. He cut the channel. What humanity had been doing for the last 40 years was preparing. Not because they had known the Zirathi were coming specifically. They hadn't. They had built their defenses because humanity, in its long and violent history, had learned a single lesson so thoroughly it had become genetic memory: someone is always coming. The Solar Defense Grid, the SDG, was not a fleet in the traditional sense. It was a doctrine, a philosophy, and an engineering achievement that had consumed the combined industrial output of 14 nations for 4 decades. It was passive until it was not. It was invisible until it was not. And it was, above all else, patient. Ethan Cross had not built it. He had simply been the man trusted to use it. He turned to his tactical officer. "Commander Reyes. Time to full grid activation? 12 seconds on your mark, Admiral." Ethan looked at the display: 800 warships in a perfect encirclement pattern, exactly as Zirathi doctrine dictated, the same formation they had used for 2 centuries of unbroken conquest. A formation that worked brilliantly when the enemy was where you expected them to be. "Mark," said Admiral Ethan Cross. Emperor Zyrex Thorn was in the middle of composing his next transmission, something suitably contemptuous, something that would read well in the Imperial archives, when every sensor on his flagship screamed simultaneously. The Solar Defense Grid came online. It was not a fleet. It was the solar system itself. Humanity had spent 40 years embedding rail accelerator platforms inside asteroids, disguising them as unremarkable rock. They had seeded the asteroid belt with autonomous targeting systems. They had anchored mass driver arrays to the moons of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars. They had turned the inner system into a kill box so comprehensive, so layered, so patient, that it had simply waited, inert and invisible, until something walked into it. 800 warships found themselves, simultaneously, inside the optimal firing solution of 43,000 independent weapons platforms. The opening salvo lasted 11 seconds and disabled 312 vessels. The second salvo, 12 seconds, destroyed another 240. The third salvo was shorter, because there were fewer targets. Aboard his flagship, Emperor Zyrex Thorn watched his fleet, 2 centuries of imperial military supremacy, dissolve in less than a minute. He had never experienced anything like it. He had no framework for it. His species had rules for war, elegant mathematical principles about force ratios and engagement geometries, and every single one of them assumed that the enemy occupied a location. Humanity had made the location itself the enemy. "All stop," he said. His voice was very quiet. "All stop." The remaining 260 ships, those still capable of movement, halted. The firing stopped. Ethan Cross had ordered a ceasefire the moment the Imperial formation broke, not out of mercy, though mercy was part of it, but out of precision. He wanted survivors. Survivors carried messages. The channel reopened. "Emperor Thorn," said Admiral Ethan Cross. 47 seconds. That's how long it took us to remove you as a credible threat. I want you to understand something before you go." Zyrex Thorn said nothing. He was still processing. Still computing. Still failing to find the variable he had missed. "We are not a Class 3 species," Ethan continued. "That classification is based on what we are individually. It doesn't account for what we become collectively." A pause. "We have been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We have been perfecting the science of killing for 10,000 years. When we finally stopped killing each other long enough to look outward, we took everything we learned, every tactic, every technology, every hard lesson paid for in blood, and we pointed it at the sky." Another pause, shorter. "You walked into the culmination of 10 millennia of human warfare, Emperor Thorn. And you did it in a straight line." Silence on the channel. "I'm going to let your remaining ships go," Ethan Cross said. "I'm going to let you carry this home. And I want you to tell them, whatever council, whatever war committee, whatever strategic body sent you here, that soul is not available. That humanity is not available. And that the next fleet that crosses into our system will not be given 47 seconds. It will be given 0. Emperor Zyrex Thorn, ruler of 47 absorbed star systems, conqueror of civilizations, voice of the eternal empire, sat in the wreckage of his certainty for a long time. Then he said, simply, understood. The Zirathi fleet jumped out of the Sol system 18 minutes later. Admiral Ethan Cross watched them go from the bridge of the UES Adamantine, then picked up his coffee. It had gone cold. He drank it anyway. "Sir," said Lieutenant Chen, "Earth Command is requesting a full debrief. Tell them we'll file the report in the morning." He set the cup down. "And tell the mess hall I'm going to need another sandwich." He turned back to the viewport. Outside, the solar system hummed quietly around him, ancient, vast, and as of 47 seconds ago, very clearly spoken for.